She loves life and all the adventures that go with it. She sometimes makes those OCD planners and worry boards amongst her friends and family crazy with her seemingly nonplussed approach to gatherings, events, vacations, etc. She's a believer in Doris Day. Do the best you can and then que sera, sera. Her speech is number 2 out of the Confident Communicator Manual. Her objectives are to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to follow and understand your speech, make your message clear with supporting material, use appropriate transitions, and create a strong opening and conclusion. Let's all welcome Sheralyn.
Who remembers Bob Ross? Remember Bob? He was the guy on PBS that taught painting with that great big dark afro. He used to fascinate me. One, because I have absolutely no talent at all when it comes to drawing or artwork. But I would watch him every now and just be fascinated by how quickly he could paint a painting and do it so well. He taught me a lesson one. And it's just a lesson that was just a quickie, but it's something that I have remembered for over 40 years, and it's really been a part of my life. And it wasn't art. One day I was watching him. He had just completed this picture. It was very nice. It was a little mountain scene and everything. And I was looking at how quickly he had done it. It was a really nice picture, and I was just kind of in awe. And he said, and do you remember his soft little voice? And he said, now what happens if before your painting dries, little Johnny comes up and he wants to paint too? And before you know it, he takes this big old brush that's just loaded with black paint, and he goes, shh, right down the middle of this beautiful picture. I was sick, like sick. I'm thinking, oh, how could he have done that? How could he have done it? He just ruined his painting. And Bob says, it's okay. There's no problem. All we have to do is paint some happy little trees. And he takes that same vile brush that had just destroyed this painting, and he starts lightly feathering in some trees. And he does one, and then he quickly does a few others, and then he steps back for the audience to look at the picture. And I was amazed. From this horrible, just black mark down the middle of this painting, he had created not just a lovely picture, but a really beautiful piece of artwork. He simply said, and this is what I remember, he said, we don't have mistakes here. We just have happy accidents. Life is like that, isn't it? It's never perfect. Happy little accidents happen. We can't control everything and everyone in our lives. We can schedule and plan and do the very best that we can, but rarely do our lives play out and go exactly as we have envisioned. It's how we look at the imperfections in our life that determines if it's a disaster or not. That's what Bob Ross taught me. I believe that happiness is a matter of choice. It's a positive attitude that we choose to express. Happiness is not a gift delivered to our door every Monday morning. And it's certainly not circumstances that make us joyful. If we wait for the stars to align in a perfect storm of circumstances so that we can be happy, we'll probably never laugh again. It just doesn't happen. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. To me, it is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, and yes, more important than even success. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice. We have this choice every single day about the attitude that we will embrace for the day. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change our past. the only thing that we can do is change our attitude. English poet and philosopher Gilbert Chesterton said, and I love this, so listen closely, an adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. A few years ago, my oldest son asked me if I wanted to go on a motorcycle road trip with him. He was getting ready to spend 2 years in Panama, and I'm like, yeah. So we quickly made plans, and it was a beautiful morning in early May, and we headed off. Colorado, here we come. We had a great ride for about an hour and a half. All of a sudden, it started snowing. Hard. It was wet, cold, and miserable. Now, we knew that once we got over to Colorado and hit the Vail Pass, it was going to be far worse. So we had to abort our plans. We head home, we're miserable, we're disappointed. But what happens? The next day dawns bright and beautiful in the morning. Mikey and I just look at each other, road trip! But we didn't want to hit the storm again, so we decide we'll just head down to Southern California, go to the beach. Why not? So we head out. We have a great trip. We get down to the Mojave. We're out in the middle of nowhere. My bike, my brand new bike, breaks down. Dead. We have the bike towed back to Vegas. Now, it's interesting that we never made it to California. We spent a week in Vegas waiting for parts and repairs for that darn bike. A little while later, I was telling my friend about the great adventure that Michael and I had, and she's like, I don't understand, Sheralyn. Everything went wrong, and you hate Vegas. She was absolutely right. Everything that could possibly have gone wrong went wrong, and I hate Vegas. But I realized that had all of that stuff not happened, I would not have gotten to spend an entire week alone with my son, one-on-one time, just having great adventures. We talked about little things, we talked about important things, we laughed, we joked, we had just a really great time. And I'm telling you, I would not trade that failed trip for 10 perfectly executed ones. We still laugh about it to this day. I'm sure that you've all heard that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. That is true for all of us. We are in charge of our attitudes. Life will always have its frustrations, its challenges, its sorrows, but through it all, we can still be happy. It's a deliberate choice that we make. How do you look at the imperfections in your life? Are they disasters or happy little accidents?